I'm Dorothy. I'm 72 years old, and I've learned that the hand that feeds you is often the hand that eventually holds the knife to your throat. I spent 40 years building a life of quiet dignity, believing that family was the one investment that never depreciated. I was wrong. I gave my daughter and her husband access to a legacy worth over $52 million. A fortune my late husband Robert had brilliantly concealed. In return, they tried to trade my life for a one-way economy seat to a death camp in the jungles of Costa Rica. They looked at my gray hair and trembling hands, and saw a helpless geriatric, a confused old woman ripe for the slaughter. They thought they were discarding a burden. They didn't know I was the one who wrote the fine print they were about to choke on. By tomorrow morning, their inheritance will be a prison sentence, and I will be the one closing the cell door. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from, or what time it is for you. The jet bridge at O'Hare Terminal 3 was a cold metallic tunnel that smelled of jet fuel and stale coffee. It was supposed to be the start of a vacation, a healing retreat, as they called it, but it felt like a perp walk. "Careful, Mom," Marcus whispered. His voice was dripping with a sugary sweetness that made my stomach turn, but his fingernails were digging into my bicep with the pressure of a vice grip. "We don't want you tripping." "I can walk, Marcus," I muttered, trying to pull my arm away. "I'm not an invalid." "Hush now, Dorothy," he cooed, using my first name. He knew I hated that. It was a subtle power play he had adopted the week after Robert's funeral. "You know how dizzy you get. We're just supporting you." I looked ahead at my daughter Vanessa. She was walking briskly, holding our passports like trophies. She was wearing her concerned daughter costume, cashmere cardigan, slacks, a solemn expression, but I saw the tension in her shoulders. She was moving with the frantic energy of a woman on a deadline. 3-4 Costa Rica," Vanessa announced to the gate agent, her voice too loud, too cheerful. "Business class, for my mother. She needs the legroom for her circulation." The agent scanned the passes. "Beep, beep, beep. Enjoy your flight," she said automatically. Vanessa turned back to us, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Here we go, Mom. Paradise awaits. Just imagine the sun, the ocean. No more stress, no more bills. Just rest, rest." I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "I didn't want to go, Vanessa. I told you I wanted to stay in the house. Robert's things are there." "The house is too big for you, Mom," Vanessa snapped, her tone sharpening for a fraction of a second before she caught herself. She softened her voice. "It's full of ghosts. You need a fresh start." "We all do." Marcus shoved me forward gently but firmly. "Keep moving, Dorothy. You're holding up the line." I shuffled onto the plane. The air inside was recycled and dry. We were in the first row, seat 1A for me. Vanessa took 1B across the aisle. Marcus sat in the seat directly behind me, effectively boxing me in. I sat down, the leather seat cold against my back. I felt a wave of claustrophobia. This wasn't a trip. This was a transport. I looked out the window at the baggage handlers tossing suitcases onto a cart. I wished I could trade places with one of them. Any life was better than this suffocating manufactured care. The plane was boarding slowly. I closed my eyes, trying to block out Marcus's cologne, which was thick enough to choke a horse. "Ma'am." I opened my eyes. A flight attendant was standing there. His name tag read Michael. He was young, maybe late 20s, with sharp, intelligent eyes that looked tired. He was holding a tray of pre-departure water. "Water?" he asked. "She's fine," Marcus answered from behind me, cutting in before I could speak. "She doesn't need anything. She has a weak bladder." Michael looked at Marcus, then down at me. He didn't move. "Actually," I said, my voice raspy, "I would like some water." Marcus sighed, a loud theatrical exhale of annoyance. "Fine, but just a sip, Dorothy. We don't want an accident." Michael leaned in to hand me the plastic cup. As he did, his body blocked Marcus's view for a split second. He didn't hand me the cup. He dropped it. It wasn't clumsy. It was deliberate. The cup hit my tray table and bounced into my lap, splashing ice water onto my pants. "Oh my God, I am so clumsy," Michael exclaimed, his voice pitching up. He immediately grabbed a stack of napkins and leaned in close, ostensibly to help me dry off. "I am so sorry, ma'am. Let me get that," he said loudly. Then he leaned his head right next to my ear. The air in the cabin seemed to freeze. "Pretend you are sick," he whispered. His voice was a terrified hiss, barely audible over the hum of the auxiliary power unit. "Do it now. Chest pains, anything. Just get off this plane." I froze. I looked at him. His eyes were wide, pleading. This wasn't a standard apology. He was trembling, What? I breathed. They are taking you to Paradise Haven, he whispered, scrubbing frantically at my dry pants with the napkin. It's a one-way ticket. You will never come back. Play dead. He stood up abruptly, his face flushing red. I am so sorry, ma'am. I'll get you a fresh towel. He hurried away to the galley. I sat there, the cold water seeping into my skin, my heart suddenly hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Paradise Haven, one way. I looked across the aisle at Vanessa. She was texting furiously on her phone, her thumb moving like a piston. She looked up, caught my eye, and gave me a thumbs up. Everything okay, Mom? Just a little spill. Fine, I managed to say, just cold. I looked back at the galley. Michael was watching me. He nodded once. A tiny, imperceptible movement. Played dead. The cabin doors closed with a heavy ceiling thud. The pressure in the plane changed. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, announcing our flight time to Costa Rica. 6 hours. 6 hours to a prison. I knew in my gut Michael was telling the truth. The urgency in his eyes was primal. I looked at Marcus. He was flipping through a magazine, but his eyes weren't tracking the words. He was watching me like a hawk watches a field mouse. The plane began to push back from the gate. The engines wound to life. Now or never. Dorothy. I took a deep breath. I thought about Robert. I thought about the war. I thought about the 40 years I spent negotiating contracts for the Textile Workers Union. I knew how to bluff, but this had to be the performance of my life. I let out a low, guttural groan. Marcus's head snapped up. Mom, what is it? I grabbed my chest with my left hand, clawing at my cardigan. I threw my head back against the headrest, letting my mouth hang open. My chest, I gasped. I can't. She's fine, Vanessa shouted immediately. She jumped up from her seat, unbuckling her belt. Mom, stop it. Sit down. You're just anxious. No, I moaned louder this time. I kicked my legs out, knocking the tray table. Hurts. Crushing. Mom, stop making a scene, Marcus hissed, leaning over the seat. He grabbed my shoulder, his fingers digging in hard enough to leave bruises. You are embarrassing us. Stop it right now. His reaction confirmed everything. A normal son-in-law would scream for help. A normal daughter would be terrified. They were just angry. They were furious that their cargo was malfunctioning. Help, I screamed, putting every ounce of air in my lungs into the word. Heart, help me. Sit down, Vanessa roared, trying to physically shove me back into the seat. She was panicking. She has dementia. She's having an episode. Ignore her, ma'am. Step back. It was Michael. He came running down the aisle, a red medical kit in his hand. He shoved Vanessa aside with surprising strength. Medical emergency, he shouted to the other flight attendants. Passenger in 1A reporting chest pains. Oxygen now. She is faking it, Vanessa screamed, her face turning a shade of purple I'd never seen before. She does this for attention. We are taking off. Ma'am, if you do not sit down, I will have the marshals remove you. Michael yelled back, standing between Vanessa and me. He looked at me, his eyes locking onto mine. Ma'am, can you breathe? No, I wheezed, clutching his arm. Pain, left arm. Tell the captain to stop the plane. Michael shouted to his colleague. We have to return to the gate now. The plane jerked as the pilot slammed on the brakes. The momentum threw Vanessa forward and she stumbled, catching herself on my seat back. She glared at me, her face inches from mine. You old fool, she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper so low only I could hear. You are ruining everything. You have no idea what you've done. Doctor, I yelled again, closing my eyes. I need a doctor. The next 20 minutes were chaotic. The plane taxied back to the gate. Paramedics boarded, hauling heavy gear. They swarmed me, checking my pulse, putting a blood pressure cuff on my arm. BP is elevated, one paramedic shouted. Tachycardic, we need to transport. She is fine, Marcus shrieked from the aisle. We have a schedule. We have a facility waiting for her. You can't take her off. Sir, step back, the paramedic said firmly. She's reporting chest pains. She goes to the hospital. Period. They loaded me onto a narrow aisle chair. As they wheeled me past Vanessa, she looked like she wanted to strangle me right there in front of the TSA agents. We're coming with her, Vanessa snarled, grabbing her carry-on. Get the bags, Marcus. Ma'am, you can stay on the flight if you wish, the lead attendant said. She is my mother, Vanessa shouted. I am her guardian. I go where she goes. They followed us off the plane. The cool air of the jet bridge hit my face, and I felt a momentary wave of relief, but it was short. The moment we were clear of the aircraft door, out of sight of the other passengers. Vanessa lunged. She grabbed the handle of the wheelchair, slamming it to a halt. "What the hell are you playing at?" she demanded, looming over me. Get up right now. We are walking back onto that plane." "Ma'am," the paramedic shouted, "let go of the patient." "She's not a patient," Vanessa yelled. "She's a liar. Get up, Dorothy." I looked at the paramedic. "I don't feel safe with her," I said clearly. "She's hurting me." "That is a lie," Marcus cried, bursting into tears instantly. It was impressive how fast he could turn on the waterworks. "Oh my God, she's having a paranoid break. Officer, please." He ran toward the 2 TSA agents waiting at the top of the jet bridge. He was fumbling in his leather messenger bag. "Here, look." He pulled out a thick stack of papers. "I have the medical power of attorney. She has severe dementia. She gets confused. She thinks we're kidnapping her. The doctor warned us this would happen." The TSA agents looked at the papers, then at me. I was sitting there clutching my chest, looking every bit the frail old woman. Then they looked at the well-dressed crying man and the concerned daughter. Doubt crept into their eyes. "Ma'am," one agent said to the paramedic, "if they have legal guardianship, I don't care what they have," the paramedic said. "My liability is her heart. She goes to the ER. We will take her," Vanessa said, stepping forward, her voice smoothing out into a slick, reasonable tone. "We will take her to the airport medical station. We have a car waiting. We can handle this." "No," I shouted. "I want my lawyer. Call Sterling. Sterling and Associates." "See," Marcus sobbed. "She thinks she has a lawyer. She's retired. She hasn't worked in 10 years. She's confused." In the commotion, the flight crew was disembarking the other passengers who were deplaning due to the cancellation. Michael walked out. He had his head down, dragging his roller bag. He walked right past my wheelchair. He didn't look at me, but as he passed, he stumbled slightly, his hip bumping against my arm. "Excuse me," he murmured. I felt something stiff slide into the pocket of my cardigan, a piece of paper. He kept walking, disappearing into the terminal. "Okay, look," the TSA agent said, trying to mediate. "We'll take her to the airport clinic. You two can follow, but let the medics do their job." Vanessa glared at me, her jaw working. "Fine, to the clinic, and then we get back on the next flight." They wheeled me up the ramp. I kept my hand over my pocket, feeling the sharp edge of the note. It was my lifeline. The airport clinic was a sterile white room with fluorescent lights that hummed too loudly. The doctor on duty was a bored-looking woman who listened to my heart for 10 seconds. "Rhythm is a bit fast," she said. "Probably anxiety, but at your age, we can't rule out angina." "It was a panic attack," Vanessa said from the doorway. She and Marcus were standing there like prison guards. "She gets them. She just needs to calm down." "I need to use the restroom," I said. "I'll help you," Marcus said, taking a step forward. "No," I snapped. "I can wipe my own behind, thank you. Unless that's part of your guardianship duties, too." The doctor chuckled nervously. "Let her have some privacy. The bathroom is right there." I stood up, my legs actually shaking now. I walked into the small bathroom and locked the door. I checked the lock twice. I leaned against the sink, looking at myself in the mirror. I looked old. My skin was pale, my eyes sunken. I looked like a victim. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the note. It was written on a cocktail napkin in frantic blue ballpoint pen. "Dorothy, they are taking you to Paradise Haven." I checked the system. It is not a resort. It is a holding facility in the Costa Rican jungle. Parent company, Aegis Care. They own the place. My grandfather died in Mexico. They take your passport. They cremate on site. No returns. Vanessa has a return ticket. You do not run. I read it 3 times. Cremate on site. The bile rose in my throat. I gripped the porcelain sink until my knuckles turned white. This wasn't just greed. This was murder. Slow, bureaucratic murder. I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type the I dialed the one number I had memorized 40 years ago. "Sterling and Associates. How may I direct your call?" "Sterling," I rasped. "Get me Sterling now. It's Dorothy." "Mrs. Parker, hold please." 10 seconds later, a deep, gravelly voice came on the line. "Dorothy, I thought you were on a plane to Paradise." "What's wrong?" "Sterling, listen to me," I whispered, eyeing the door handle. "They tried to kill me. They're trying to ship me to a place called Paradise Haven in Costa Rica. One-way ticket, crematorium on site. Vanessa is trying to bury me alive." Silence on the other end, then the sound of a chair scraping back. Where are you right now? Sterling's voice was no longer the friendly lawyer. It was the voice of a man who used to be a federal prosecutor. O'Hare, Terminal 3, Medical Clinic. They're outside the door. They have the POA, Sterling. They have the papers. Don't open that door, Sterling commanded. Do not open that door for anyone but me or the police. I am sending Hayes. He's in the loop. He can be there in 30 minutes. I'm filing an emergency injunction right now. They're going to break it down. Sterling, Vanessa is desperate. She's not acting right. Stall, Sterling said. Flush the toilet. Run the water. Fake a seizure. I don't care. Just buy me 30 minutes. I'm coming for you, Dorothy, and I'm going to destroy them. Mom, Vanessa's voice came through the door. You've been in there 10 minutes. Open up. I turned on the tap full blast. Stomach, I yelled back. Bad water. We need to go, Vanessa shouted, banging on the wood. I rebooked us. Flight leaves in an hour. Open the door. I looked around the bathroom. No windows. Vent was too small. I was trapped in a box. Officer Vanessa was yelling at someone outside. My mother is sick in there. She might have passed out. You need to open this door. Ma'am, give her a minute, the clinic doctor said. She doesn't have a minute. Break it down. I backed into the corner, clutching the phone to my chest. I felt like a rat in a cage. I looked at the napkin again. Run. I wasn't running anywhere, but I wasn't dying today either. The lock clicked. Someone outside had a key. The door swung open. That Vanessa stood there, her face a mask of fury. Behind her were two large men in dark suits I hadn't seen before. Grab her, Vanessa said to the men. Who are they? I shouted, backing up. Medical transport, Vanessa sneered. Since you can't fly commercial, we chartered a private plane. You're going to Costa Rica, Mom. One way or another. The men stepped into the small bathroom. They were huge. They reached for me. Stop. A voice cracked like a whip from the hallway. A young man in a sharp navy suit sprinted into the clinic, holding a briefcase like a battering ram. He shoved past Vanessa, nearly knocking her over. Step away from my client, the young man yelled. Who the hell are you? Vanessa roared. I am Arthur Hayes, the man said, flashing a badge. Associate attorney at Sterling and Associates. I represent Mrs. Dorothy Parker. He turned to the clinic doctor. Call the police right now. These people are attempting to kidnap my client. Kidnap? Marcus shrieked from the hallway. We are her family. We have a power of attorney. That power of attorney is currently being contested in the Illinois Supreme Court. Hayes shouted, holding up his phone, which displayed a digital court filing. As of 5 minutes ago, an emergency stay has been granted pending a competency hearing. If you touch her, I will have you arrested for assault and battery. The two large men looked at Vanessa. They were hired muscle, probably paid in cash. They didn't want a felony charge. They stepped back. This is Vanessa screamed. She's incompetent. She seems perfectly competent to me, Hayes said, standing in front of me. She called her lawyer. She identified a threat. That's rational behavior. Now get out of my way. Hayes turned to me. Mrs. Parker, can you walk? Yes, I said, stepping past the stunned muscle. Good, we're leaving. We walked out of the clinic, flanked by confused nurses. Vanessa and Marcus followed us, screaming threats. But they didn't dare touch me with Hayes recording everything on his phone. We reached the curb. A black sedan was waiting. Get in, Hayes said. I slid into the back seat. The leather was cool. The door slammed shut, cutting off the sound of Vanessa's voice screaming, You'll regret this, old woman. As the car pulled away, I looked back. Vanessa was kicking a trash can. Marcus was on his phone, his face twisted in panic. Where are we going? I asked, my hands finally stopping their shaking. Safe house, Hayes said, looking in the rearview mirror. Sterling has an apartment in Lincoln Park. We need to get you underground until the hearing. The car wove through traffic heading toward the city. Hayes was typing on his laptop. Sterling wants to meet us there, Hayes said. He's gathering evidence on this Paradise Haven place. We pulled up to a brownstone in Lincoln Park. It looked nondescript. Third floor, Hayes said. There's a key under the mat. We went up. The apartment was dusty, clearly used for storage. I sat on a covered sofa. Hayes paced by the window. I'm going to order some food, Hayes said. You must be hungry. I'm not, I said. I feel sick. Suddenly, Hayes's phone rang. He answered it. His face went pale. What? Are you sure? He looked at me. Okay, we're moving now. What is it? I asked. Sterling just found a breach, Hayes said, grabbing my arm. Vanessa guessed the location. She hacked your old cloud account, the one linked to your phone. The Find My Device history showed you came here once with Robert years ago to sign papers. So she didn't call the police, Hayes said, looking out the window. She called her creditors. Creditors, we need to go. The fire escape. Hayes threw open the window. We climbed out onto the metal grate. Below, a black SUV screeched to a halt in front of the building. 3 men jumped out. They weren't wearing suits. They were wearing leather jackets and carrying baseball bats. Who are they? I whispered. Sharks, Hayes said grimly. Loan sharks, Southside crew. Vanessa owes them money. A lot of money. They think you're the payday. We scrambled up the fire escape to the roof. I wasn't as fast as I used to be, but adrenaline is a hell of a drug. My heart pounded, but the chest pain was gone. This was survival. We ran across the rooftop. The men were kicking in the front door downstairs. We could hear the wood splintering. Jump, Hayes said, pointing to the adjacent building. It was a 3-foot gap. I'm 72, I said. Jump or die, Dorothy. I jumped. I landed hard, rolling on the tar paper, scraping my palms. Hayes followed. We scrambled down the fire escape on the next block over, dropping into an alleyway filled with trash bags. We ran until my lungs burned. We hailed a cab on Clark Street, downtown. Hayes told the driver, the Palmer House Hotel, and step on it. I slumped in the seat, gasping for air. She sent thugs to beat her own mother, I said. She didn't send them to beat you, Hayes said, wiping sweat from his forehead. She sent them to grab you. If they get you, they ransom you for the trust money. Vanessa is desperate. Dorothy, she's not just greedy, she's drowning. The suite at the Palmer House was a fortress. Sterling was there, standing by the window with a glass of scotch. He looked like a general in a bunker. He was older now, his hair white, but his eyes were as sharp as flint. You look like hell, Dorothy, Sterling said, handing me a glass. I feel like it, I said, sinking into a velvet armchair. They found us in Lincoln Park, Hayes said. I know, Sterling said. Mercer told me. Mercer stepped out of the shadows of the kitchenette. He was a private investigator Sterling had used for decades, a man who looked like he was carved out of granite. Vanessa is in deep, Mercer said, his voice raspy. I ran her financials. How deep? I asked. 1.8 million, Mercer said, to the Castellano organization on the South Side. She lost it on crypto futures and underground poker. The deadline is in 3 weeks. 1.8 million, I whispered. That's why the rush, Sterling said. That's why the one-way ticket. She needed to liquidate the trust immediately. If she doesn't pay them, they kill her, or Marcus, or both. So she tried to kill me to save herself, I said. The realization was a cold knife in my gut. Yes, Sterling said. And now that you've escaped, she has no way to pay. She's cornered, and a cornered rat is dangerous. But the money, I said, looking at Sterling. I thought Robert left a few million. Stocks, bonds. Sterling sighed and sat down opposite me. He opened a thick file on the coffee table. Robert was brilliant, Dorothy, but he was also secretive. He knew Vanessa was weak. He saw it years ago. The gambling, the lying. He never told you. He didn't want to break your heart. Sterling said softly, but he prepared. The Robert Parker Trust isn't worth a few million. As of this morning's closing bell, it is valued at $52 million. I stared at him. The number didn't make sense. 52, he inherited a shipping fleet from his uncle in '95. He sold it quietly and reinvested in tech startups. He turned a small fortune into an empire, and he hid it all to protect you from Vanessa. Protect me. The incapacity clause, Sterling said, tapping the document. It says that if you are declared incompetent, the primary beneficiary status transfers. But he added a poison pill. What poison pill? We'll get to that, Sterling said, a dark smile touching his lips. First, we need to survive the next 48 hours. My phone buzzed. It was Linda, my army buddy from the Gulf War. Put it on speaker, Sterling ordered. Linda, I said. Dorothy, thank God. Linda sounded frantic. Vanessa called me. She said you're having a breakdown. She said you're running around the city with some con artist lawyer. She's crying, Dorothy. She's worried sick. Linda, I'm fine. Vanessa is lying. She said, you think she's trying to kill you, Linda said, her voice thick with doubt. Dorothy, that sounds crazy. It sounds like you know what happened to your mother. My mother had Alzheimer's. Vanessa knew exactly which buttons to push. Linda, listen to me. She owes money to the mob. She's trying to lock me up. The mob. Linda sighed. Dorothy, come on. Listen to yourself. Just tell me where you are. I'll come get you. We'll go to the VA hospital. Just get checked out. I looked at Sterling. He shook his head. I have to go, Linda, I said. Don't tell her you talked to me. I hung up. She's isolating you, Mercer said. By the time we get to court, everyone you know will think you're insane. We need a witness, I said. The flight attendant, Michael Maretti on it, Mercer said. He didn't show up for his return flight. Airline has him listed as AWOL. He's hiding. Find him, Sterling said. He's the only one who saw the boarding pass. He's the only one who heard the threat. If Vanessa finds him first, I didn't finish the sentence. I'll find him, Mercer said, grabbing his coat. I tracked his cell to a motel in Pilsen. I'm going. 2 days passed. We stayed in the hotel. I paced the floor, feeling the walls closing in. Then the banging started. Bam, bam, bam. Mom, I know you're in there. It was Vanessa. She was in the hallway. Open the door. We just want to talk. Marcus's voice. Security. She's in there. She has a gun. She's going to kill herself. A gun. I hissed. I don't have a gun. They're escalating, Sterling said, moving to the door. They want the police to break it down. They have Dr. Chun with them. I looked through the peephole. Vanessa, Marcus, 2 large orderlies, and a man in a white coat. Dr. Chen, we have a committal order, Vanessa shouted to the hotel security guards who were running down the hall. She is a danger to herself. Break down the door. Ma'am, we have a master key, a guard said. Do not open that door, Sterling shouted through the wood. I am legal counsel. There is no weapon. He's lying, Vanessa screamed. He's the one manipulating her. Open it. The lock clicked. The door handle turned. The door swung open. Vanessa rushed in, followed by the doctor. Grab her, Vanessa yelled, pointing at me. Sedate her. Dr. Chen uncapped a syringe. Mrs. Parker. Calm down. This is just to help you relax. Get back, I yelled, grabbing a lamp. Stop. Sterling stepped in front of me, holding up a piece of paper. Officer, look at this. The police officer who had arrived with hotel security paused, his hand on his holster. Everybody freeze. Sterling thrust the paper at the officer. This is a temporary restraining order granted by Judge Holloway an hour ago. It names Vanessa Parker, Marcus Parker, and Dr. Anthony Chen. If they come within 10 feet of my client, they are to be arrested immediately. Vanessa stopped dead. That's fake. Call the precinct, Sterling challenged. And while you're at it, ask about the warrant for Dr. Chen regarding prescription fraud. We sent the evidence over this morning. Dr. Chen turned pale. He capped the syringe and took a step back. I was just asked to consult. You were asked to kidnap, Sterling snapped. The officer looked at the paperwork. Then, he looked at Vanessa. Ma'am, step out of the room now. She's incompetent, Vanessa roared, spit flying from her mouth. She doesn't know what she's doing. She seems to know exactly what she's doing, the officer said. Out or you go in cuffs. Vanessa stared at me. The hatred in her eyes was absolute. This isn't over, Mom. We'll see you in court on Monday, and when we win, you're going to rot. Marcus grabbed her arm, pulling her away. Vanessa, stop, we have to go. They retreated down the hall, the sound of their defeat echoing off the walls. Monday morning, the Illinois Supreme Court. The air was thick with the smell of floor wax and old wood. I sat next to Sterling. I felt small. Where is he? I whispered. Mercer is bringing him, Sterling said, checking his watch. They're 10 minutes out. Our strategy relied on 2 things, Michael's testimony and the digital flight manifest showing the one-way ticket to Paradise Haven. Marcus's lawyer, a slick operator named Peterson, walked over to the judge's bench before the session started. He was holding a motion. Your Honor, Peterson said, loud enough for us to hear. We moved to exclude the digital evidence regarding the flight itinerary. The chain of custody is flawed. These documents were obtained by a private investigator hacking into a secure server, not via subpoena. Sterling stood up. We obtained them from the airline through a back channel. Peterson smirked. Inadmissible. Fruit of the poisonous tree. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Vance, looked at the motion. Mr. Sterling, did you subpoena these records? We didn't have time, Your Honor. It was an emergency. Then I cannot allow them, the judge ruled. Motion granted. The flight records are out. I felt the blood drain from my face. Sterling, that was our proof. We lost the paper, Sterling said, his jaw tight. Now we only have the person. Michael must testify. The trial began. It was a slaughter. Dr. Chun took the stand. He lied with the ease of a sociopath. He described episodes that never happened. He claimed I didn't know the year, the president, or my own name. Then Vanessa took the stand. She cried. She actually wept. She talked about how hard it was to watch her hero fade away. The jury ate it up. They looked at me with pity. Then Marcus, he told the story about the rain. She was walking down Michigan Avenue in her slippers. He sobbed. It was pouring. She was looking for Robert. She didn't know he was dead. It broke my heart. It was a lie. A detailed, specific, devastating lie. Sterling leaned over to me. They're winning. If Michael doesn't get here suddenly. The back doors opened. Mercer walked in. Behind him was Michael. He was wearing his flight attendant uniform. It was pressed, pristine. He looked terrified, but he walked with his head high. Defense calls Michael Torres, Sterling announced. Michael took the stand. Peterson looked at him with disdain. Mr. Torres, Sterling began. Why are you here? Because they tried to kill her, Michael said, his voice trembling but clear. Objection, Peterson shouted. Speculation. Sustained, the judge said. Stick to what you saw, Mr. Torres. I saw a ticket, Michael said, to Paradise Haven in Costa Rica. And I know what that place is, he said, turning to the jury. My grandfather died in a facility owned by the same company, Aegis Care. In Mexico, they promise paradise. But they take your passport. They isolate you. And when the money runs out, you die. Objection, Peterson roared. This is irrelevant. His grandfather has nothing to do with this. It goes to state of mind, Your Honor, Sterling argued. It explains why he warned my client. I'll allow it, the judge said. Michael, Sterling said. Did Mrs. Parker seem confused to you? No, he said. She seemed scared. She seemed trapped. And when I told her to run, she understood. Peterson stood up for cross-examination. He was brutal. You were suspended for this incident, were you not? He sneered. For causing a panic, for delaying a flight. Yes, Michael said. So you are a disgruntled employee with a history of hysterical behavior, projecting your own family trauma onto a loving daughter taking her mother on vacation. It wasn't a vacation, Michael shouted. It was a one-way ticket, which we have no record of. Peterson smiled, because the judge excluded it. So really, it's just your word. The word of a suspended flight attendant. Michael looked like he had been slapped. He looked at me, his eyes filled with tears. I know what I saw, he whispered. Defense calls Dorothy Parker. Sterling said. I stood up. My legs felt heavy. I walked to the stand. I swore the oath. Dorothy, Sterling asked. Are you confused? No. Do you know where you are? Illinois Supreme Court, room 304. Why did you run? Because I found out the truth, I said, looking at Vanessa. About the money. What money? The $52 million my husband left in trust. Gasps in the courtroom. The jury looked at each other. And what happens to that money if you are declared incompetent? Vanessa gets it, I said immediately. The incapacity clause. Peterson jumped up. He was smiling. He thought he had me. Your Honor. Objection. This proves our point. The witness believes in a conspiracy about a fortune that she only discovered recently. This is a classic paranoid delusion triggered by grief. He turned to the jury. She invents a motive to demonize her daughter. It's sad. It's tragic, but it's insanity. It was a good argument. The jury nodded. They thought I was making it up. Sterling stood up slowly. He didn't look worried. He looked like a man who was about to drop a nuclear bomb. Your Honor, Sterling said. Mr. Peterson claims the trust is a delusion. I would like to enter the trust instrument into evidence, specifically Article 1 to B. He handed a document to the judge and to Peterson. Peterson glanced at it. He froze. His smug smile vanished. Read it, Mr. Peterson, Sterling challenged. Out loud, Peterson stammered. This is highly irregular. Read it, Sterling barked. Peterson looked down at the paper. His hands shook. Article 1 to B. The forfeiture clause. Peterson read, his voice weak. In the event that the secondary beneficiary, Vanessa Parker, attempts to trigger the incapacity clause through coercion, fraud, or the use of false medical testimony, her status as beneficiary is immediately and irrevocably revoked. Vanessa stood up at the defense table. What? Keep reading, Sterling said. In such an event, Peterson read, sweat beading on his forehead. The entire principle of the trust shall bypass the secondary beneficiary and be distributed immediately to the tertiary beneficiary. And who is that? Sterling asked. Peterson couldn't speak. Sterling turned to the gallery. He looked at Michael. The tertiary beneficiary is the Roberts Light Foundation for Elder Justice, a non-profit organization to be headed by the man who saved my client's life, Michael Torres. The courtroom exploded. No, Vanessa screamed. It was a raw animal sound. She lunged at the table, scattering papers. That's my money. She can't do that. He's dead. He saw you coming. Vanessa, I shouted from the stand, feeling a surge of power I hadn't felt in years. He knew you were a vulture. He set the trap, and you walked right into it. It's a lie, Marcus shrieked, grabbing Peterson by the lapels. Fix this. Fix it. I can't, Peterson whispered, dropping the paper. It's ironclad. You triggered the forfeiture. You committed fraud in open court. The evidence of fraud is clear, Sterling said, pointing to the door where two detectives had just entered. The forged medical records from Dr. Chen, the flight manifest, which we couldn't use, but the police certainly can, and the testimony of Mr. Torres. Judge Vance banged her gavel. Order, arrest them, the judge said, pointing at Vanessa and Marcus. And Dr. Chen. Perjury, fraud, attempted kidnapping. The detectives moved in. Vanessa tried to run. She scrambled over the rail, pushing Marcus aside. Get off me, she screamed as the detectives tackled her. I need that money. The Castellanos, they'll kill me. They can get in line behind the district attorney, Sterling shouted. I watched as they cuffed my daughter. She looked at me one last time. Her eyes weren't filled with regret. They were filled with the terrified realization that she had bet her life and lost. Marcus was sobbing on the floor. His designer suit ruined. I didn't know. She made me do it. Save it for the jury. Marcus, I said softly. The courtroom emptied out. The silence returned. I walked over to Michael. He was sitting in the front row, stunned. 52 million, he whispered, for a foundation. Robert wanted to help people like your grandfather, I said. He just didn't know who to trust until now. I don't know how to run a foundation, Michael said, wiping his eyes. You won't be alone, I said, taking his hand. I'm retired. I need a job. And I have a feeling we're going to be very busy. Sterling packed up his briefcase. He looked at me and winked. Not bad for a confused old woman. Not bad at all, I said. Epilogue. 6 months later. I stood in the new offices of Roberts Light. It was a bustling space in downtown Chicago. Michael was in the conference room leading a strategy meeting on combating predatory guardianship laws. I looked out the window. The city looked different now. It wasn't a place of danger. It was a place of work. Vanessa and Marcus were in Cook County Jail awaiting trial. The loan sharks from the South Side had been intercepted by the FBI after Sterling tipped them off about the gambling ring. My daughter was safe from the mob, but she would spend the next 20 years in a cage of her own making. I picked up a picture of Robert from my desk. You were a genius, my love, I whispered. A ruthless, beautiful genius. He had turned his legacy into a shield and his fortune into a sword. He had saved me from beyond the grave. And now we were going to save everyone else. The phone on my desk rang. Roberts Light. Dorothy speaking. How can we help you? They're trying to sell my house. An old woman's voice cracked on the other end. My daughter, she says I'm forgetting things. I clicked my pen, pulling a fresh legal pad toward me. Tell me everything, I said. And don't worry. You've got the best lawyers in Chicago on your side. Justice wasn't just a concept anymore. It was a promise, and I intended to keep it. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say, you are here.